Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back. Kellen here with Droid Life. So we're taking a look today at a couple of phones that all Android nerds obsess over every year. Yes, of course, I'm talking about Google's new phones, although this time they're not called Nexus. They're called Pixel. So that name change means a number of things, but one thing it also seems to mean is that Google's taking phones really seriously this time. So either way, there's a lot to talk about here. So let's dive into this. This is our review of Google's Pixel phones. So what are the Pixel phones and how do they differ from Nexus? Well, they're very much like Nexus phones in terms of being controlled by Google and getting timely software updates with the newest Android builds and security patches and all of that stuff. They just happen to be priced at the premium tier where Samsung and Apple tend to play. So in other words, instead of getting that yearly fix of pure stock Android at really reasonable prices, we now have Pixel and all that changes. So you've got the regular Pixel, which comes in 32 or 128 gig storage varieties, and it runs $649 to $749, which is sort of like a Galaxy S7 or iPhone 7. And then you have the Pixel XL, the bigger guy, also comes in 32 or 128 gig storage options, but then it starts at $769 and $869. So you can see those $350 days of Nexus 5Xs are long behind us. As for specs, these phones are very much the same, that they really only differ in screen size and resolution and then battery capacity, which makes sense. One's smaller, one's larger. So the regular Pixel sports a 5-inch 1080p display and a 2770 milliamp hour battery. The larger one, the Pixel XL, has a 5.5-inch Quad HD display and a 3450 milliamp hour battery. And outside of those differences, they each run a Snapdragon 821, they have 4 gig RAM, they have the same 12.3 megapixel Sony camera, they have fingerprint readers and USB Type-C ports and 8 megapixel front shooters. And of course, those metal bodies, which we'll talk more about in a little bit. So you notice I didn't mention water resistance, SD card slots, or wireless charging, and that's because, well, these phones don't have any of that. Those deal breaker omissions? I don't necessarily think so, but they certainly aren't helping Google's case for pricing these at the tier they did. So we're talking about the Pixel phones, it's really hard not to bring up their cameras. You see, Google went all out here. They threw in high-end Sony sensors, 12.3 megapixels, f2.0, 1.55 micron pixels, and they're crazy fast. They're fast to load, faster to focus, and then even quicker than that to actually shoot photos. And if you go into burst mode, you can just go really nuts on it. But so they're fast. They're high end. Now, when they take photos, the photos to me look much more natural than what you've seen from some other shooters. And even in HDR mode, they just seem to come out looking just more impressive than I expected them to. Good in low light situations. And you know, really they're as good, if not better, than what Samsung and Apple are doing. And I don't say that, you know, with hesitation. So software features though, you've got lens blur and panorama modes and photosphere and slow motion, and you can even record in 4K, plus using their crazy video stabilization, which is really something to play with. Now, there's no optical image stabilization, but Google's clearly done some other tricks here to really make sure the photo experience is top notch. If you want to learn more about the Pixel camera though, feel free to check out our full Pixel review. I'll have that link down below, just below that like button. Just know that this is a camera that will thoroughly impress you, I promise you that. Of course, you can't really talk about Google's phones without mentioning the software. So very much like Nexus devices, Pixel phones offer Google's vision for Android, which just so happens to be the vision for Android that most of the nerds like me tend to like. Except this time, Google's offering Pixel phones and Pixel owners sort of an exclusive experience, a special experience that actually Sundar Pichai talked about months ago, and that they feel like they can improve upon their own hardware using really great software. So we're talking about things like Google Assistant, a nightlight mode, There's obviously the Pixel launcher, which has been leaked and things like that, but it all sort of combines to create this experience that only Pixel owners get for now. So speaking of Google Assistant, this is Google's assistant for your smartphone. You could compare it to Siri or Cortana, but what Google's trying to do here is evolve all this AI and Google Now and the voice actions, all this intelligence they've been working on for a number of years that we've sort of been playing with. It's just now all in one location, which is the assistant. So you launch it by saying the OK Google command, and you can say that from anywhere at any time, whether your phone is locked and sitting on a table, or if you're in the middle of an app doing something. You can always bring up the assistant to get instant information that could be relevant to what you're doing at the moment, or by something you simply ask it. So you can ask it general questions from Google, so it grabs information from the knowledge base, but you can also have it do tasks like set alarms, timers, or reminders and things like that. And some of that stuff can be location-based as well. Of course, you can go further, open apps, you can book reservations, pull up your flight times and other reservations that you may have. You can even ask it to show you photos from specific locations, times of people or objects, and it'll then dig through your Google Photos to find that. It's incredibly handy, and I've been using it a ton during this review period. So it is early, just keep that in mind. We're still early in stages of Google Assistant, but Google's made it obvious that this is one of their big focuses going forward. So not everything's exclusive. You still get the benefit of just having the newest version of Android first, which is a big deal. So you get Nougat out of the box, Android 7.1, newest version, and that means you get access to some of those new Nougat features like app shortcuts, which allow you to long press on an icon, quickly jump into specific parts of an app. You also get 24/7 support, and that's chat or phone support. So if you're having an issue with your phone, you just jump into settings, toggle over to the support area, and you can talk to somebody live, a real human, within probably just a couple of minutes. You also get smart management of your storage. So assuming you own the phone for a while, if you were to run low on storage, the phone can actually manage that a little bit and make sure you have plenty of storage going forward. So you see that Google's really adding in all of these features that have started to create this really robust Android experience. And it really makes you sort of feel comfortable knowing that you own a phone that Google's really going to keep improving over time. As for the rest of the goodies, you've got two really nice high-res AMOLED panels, rich colors, accurate, also amazing viewing angles and brightness. And since these are Google's phones, that of course means the performance is as good as you'll find on any Android phone, since it's them fine-tuning their own operating system. Size options are here as well for those who want choice between a smaller or a larger phone. While the XL isn't unmanageable by any means, it is the bigger media experience device, while the regular Pixel is more for one-handed users. Thankfully, neither ditches any of the serious specs. And finally, these phones are unlocked, so that means you can take them anywhere. They work at all the US carriers, from Verizon to T-Mobile to AT&T to Sprint. So if you don't like one carrier one day, you can try a new one out the next day. And all it takes is a simple little SIM swap. As much praise as I have for these phones, they're obviously not perfect. And I've kind of mentioned that, some of the specs they might be missing. One of the big ones is obviously water resistant. So Samsung and Apple have each kind of stepped their game up there. Samsung at IP68, Apple at IP67. Now with those ratings, you can essentially dunk phones underwater. You could even possibly take them for a short swim if you want. Spilling things on them is no big deal whatsoever. With the Pixel phones, you're at IP53. So that means you have some dust protection, well, pretty decent dust protection, but water resistance, you don't really have much. We're talking splashing, maybe. You certainly wouldn't want to dunk those. And even though irresponsible YouTubers will try to tell you otherwise, I would never put these in a sink. I would never dunk them fully underwater, take them for a swim, or any of that. They're just not made for that. Battery life, probably another one of those areas that's not game-changing by any means. I think I'm getting anywhere from 14 to 16 hours on a single charge, and that's with 3 to 4 hours of screen on time. So not complaining. This isn't bad by any means, it's just kind of average. And when Google constantly talks about tweaking and power efficiency and all this stuff, and I just am not seeing it, I sort of ding them a little bit. But for the most part, you're gonna get through a full day. You're just gonna have to make sure you charge at night. It's pretty typical smartphone usage. I think we can all probably hang with that. The design is also, not all that inspiring. Pixel phones do, yes, look like iPhones. They look like HTC phones. They're all metal and they feel nice in hand, and they've got these kind of funky glass paneling on the back, which I'm actually starting to enjoy. But nothing in the in-hand feel or look from afar it's really that impressive. Look, they feel premium. You just feel like you've seen this before. It feels like we've been here before. It just doesn't feel that new. So here's the deal with Google's Pixel phones. They run the cleanest, fastest, most up-to-date version of Android. But not only that, Google's thrown them in metal bodies, given them exclusive features like Assistant, and put one of the world's best smartphone cameras inside. So are they the best phones you can buy right now? Probably, and they might be for the foreseeable future too.